You spoke about how diverse the constituency is. Has it been enhanced by that diversity?
Has the area been enhanced? Well, I don't think diversity per se is a problem. I think what we are seeing in parts of Britain, particularly as a result of illegal migration, particularly a result of mass migration, policy which not many people supported or never voted for, are real issues with integration. Now, I think if you, as you know, working for Manchester Evening News, if you go to parts of Greater Manchester, it is quite clear that integration is not working as it should do. If you go, for example, to areas like Blackburn, if you go to areas like Burnley and Oldham, where of course we had the Cantle report, and we've since had a number of major government reports into that, there are areas in Britain where our communities are not sufficiently integrated.
Yeah.
We should be able to stand up responsibly and say, okay, what is going on here? Why is it, for example, that we do not have meaningful interaction between different communities? I was very inspired and influenced by the work of Ed Hussein, a Muslim writer. He wrote a book called Among the Mosques. And Ed made the argument that there are parts of Britain where young Muslims, for example, are not having sufficient interaction with their non-Muslim counterparts and vice versa.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, you know, we can say good things about diversity. It is also true that we have very real problems around integration.
Yeah.
And what I refuse to do as a candidate is be sort of bullied into this position where you're not allowed to recognise the very real problems. Because it wasn't that long ago we had serious disturbances in places like Leicester. And we had serious disturbances in places like the aftermath of the Southport atrocities. And we need to be able to talk about that. But where we've gone as a country now, because of political correctness, I think, is an inability to even have that conversation. I've noticed that around my candidacy at this election. People saying, well, he said some strident things. My view is actually it's responsible to have this conversation with the people locally and with the country.
So talking about some of the strident things you've said in the past, you spoke about how people who were born in Britain aren't necessarily British.
I didn't say that. That's a media misleading. What I said, do you know what I actually said? Do you know where that story came from?
Not off the top of my head, no.
No, exactly. So what I said is, if we are in a country where we have second generation people from second generation communities committing acts like the 7/7 bombings, Salman Abedi walking into Manchester Evening News Arena and blowing apart young children and their families who are going to a pop concert, I will never accept the view that is pushed on us by the left, by progressives, that people like Salman Abedi are as British as the children they murdered. The reason I say that, let's be clear, citizenship is not the same as belonging, and belonging requires more than a piece of paper. What makes a nation is having a strong emotional bond to that community, a sense of belonging to that community. Now, if you're blowing up little kids at a pop concert at Manchester Evening News Arena, you are rejecting that feeling of belonging, that feeling of obligation to the community. So again, we need to have a conversation about why are people committing those acts, those despicable, horrible acts? Why are they not integrating into our country? Why are they murdering our fellow citizens? I will never change my view on that. That is a serious conversation we have to have. Now, when I made those comments about the 7/7 bombers and Salman Abedi, I was attacked by people from The Guardian who said, well, these people are just as British as the people they murdered.
The Huntingdon train standings, and it was pointed out to you that attacker was British at the time.
Do you think that somebody who is murdering those people in that way feels that same sense of belonging to our national community?
No, but you could say that for anyone who commits an atrocious crime.
No, we have to have as a country a serious conversation about integration, about the failures of multiculturalism, and about what we can do to strengthen our society. When David Cameron said this in 2010, multiculturalism isn't working as it should, people were ready to have a debate. When Suella Braverman and others said it a year or two ago, people were not ready to have that conversation.
Does that conversation not start from the point that multiculturalism isn't working? You could look at lots of places around Manchester and say it is working. You know?
Do you think multiculturalism is working everywhere in Britain?
It doesn't matter what I think.
No, but I'm asking you a question.
I live in North Manchester.
Okay, so you don't think we have a problem with integration in this country?
Again, it doesn't matter what I think.
No, but this is the issue. I don't think
you're going from a standpoint that it's failed entirely.
No, I'm saying
multiculturalism is not working.
But see, again, you've taken my words out of context. What I've said is,
I haven't.
Listen to what I said a minute ago. Listen to what I said a minute ago.
That's what you said.
In areas of the country, in specific areas of the country, we have problems with integration. That should not be even debatable. We could go to areas of Blackburn, we could go to Burnley, we could go to Oldham, we could go to East London, we could go to lots of areas where it is immediately obvious we are not producing the integrated communities that we need. That is not to say that the people living in those communities are doing something wrong. That is a failure on the part of the British state, on the part of politicians, to produce the kind of strong communities that we need in this country. That is responsible to say that. What is irresponsible?
So you would argue that you're responsible, it's not divisive, it is not sowing discord. You're
Sorry, is sowing discord talking about the social problems in this country? I'll tell you what's divisive. What's divisive is what the Labour government is doing to this country. This Labour government is dumping on areas like Gorton and Denton large numbers of people who are breaking our laws, HMOs, homes that should have gone to British. Nobody voted for open borders. Nobody in Gorton and Denton voted to be having nearly 200,000 people entering the country illegally. That is a breakdown of the social contract. Let me tell you something. We've got high rates of economic inactivity in Gorton and Denton. We've got people who are struggling to get jobs. How is it right and how is it fair that those people are being asked to pay £15 billion in the coming years on accommodation costs for people who are breaking our laws entering Britain illegally? How is it fair for the people in Longsight and Levenshulme who are running businesses, working hard, to have to pay those costs? How is that fair? That is divisive. Now, calling that out is responsible. It's saying this can't continue. We cannot keep paying, as a country, these kinds of sums of money. 15 billion, could you imagine what that would do to the NHS? Could you imagine what that would do to, you talk about local transport, 15 billion quid. What would that do to a place like Gorton and Denton? Instead, it is going on accommodation and hotels and housing for people who are entering Britain illegally. I have people from the local Muslim community. I've had people from the local Nigerian community. I've had people from the white working class community all saying the same thing. We cannot carry on like this. That is not divisive. 70 to 80% of people in this country agree with me on this issue. The media, parts of the left media especially, they are the ones who are completely adrift with where this country is on this issue.